Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 13th of July, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So a update on the Coinbase versus SEC situation here. So Paul Grewal, the chief legal officer at Coinbase, has tweeted out today saying, "We have responded to the SEC's statement of intent to move to strike Coinbase's defense rooted in the major questions doctrine, abuse of discretion, equitable, estoppel, unclean hands, and latches. We look forward to addressing the court tomorrow morning." And you can see the letter here for yourself and read it. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But you guys know, obviously, I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert or anything like that, so I'm not going to even attempt to break this down. I'm sure you can find some threads of people breaking this down. But the reason why I bring it up again is because this is really what it's going to be like for probably the next couple of years between Coinbase and the SEC, unless the SEC drops their case against Coinbase. It's going to be this tit for tat, back and forth, exhausting kind of legal mumbo jumbo speak for a long time. And that's usually how it goes with these cases. I mean, you can use the Ripple case as an example here of the SEC going after Ripple. That case has been going on for 2.5 years now, and it's been a lot of back and forth. And, people went on about the Hinman emails for a very long time, and then they came out, and it wasn't really the blockbuster that everyone thought it was going to be, and that kind of thing took a long time to get to that point. And I don't know how long the case is going to continue with Ripple versus the SEC or the SEC versus Ripple. As I said, it's already been 2.5 years, so you could imagine the Coinbase case going for that long, depending on a number of different things. I think obviously the SEC could withdraw their case if they want to. Maybe Gensler gets promoted or something and isn't the chair, and the next chair that comes in withdraws the case because it's a waste of resources or whatever other reason. It could go either way, but if we assume that the case isn't going to be withdrawn, then yeah, it feels like this is going to go on for quite a while. This kind of back and forth, tit for tat, definitely not something that's very exciting for us, and definitely something that lawyers are going to make a lot of money on, as they always do. But it's great to see that Coinbase is obviously keeping the fight up, not backing down, and as I've said before, they don't have any plans to back down here. So you can read this full response here. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, the Ethereum.org website has published their Q3 roadmap, so you can check this out on GitHub. I'll link it in the YouTube description. There is a TLDR, so they've got a nice little, graphic here that shows exactly what they're focused on. It's similar to Vitalik's Ethereum roadmap graphic in the way it's kind of laid out, but obviously a lot less scope here since this is just Q3. It's not the next 10 years like the Ethereum roadmap is, and you can see they're focusing on a bunch of different things across different verticals here, such as operations, design, community, and more. Now, a friendly reminder that the Ethereum.org website, while it has a centralized team, or I guess like a core team that works at the Ethereum Foundation that works on it, the whole website is open source. It's meant to be able to be contributed to by anyone. So you can literally go to the GitHub, you can submit a pull request and contribute in ways that you feel are valuable, and get it approved, and then it's live on the Ethereum.org website, which is pretty much the first place everyone who Googles Ethereum will go if they're new, right? If you literally type Ethereum into Google, I'll do that right now. The first result is Ethereum.org here, and I don't see ads because I've got ad blocker on Google, but the first result is Ethereum.org. So obviously we want that website to be up to scratch. We want it to have the most up-to-date and reliable information so that people are able to educate themselves on Ethereum when they're first learning about it. And we want that to happen in not just English, but other languages as well. And the Ethereum.org team has been very focused on translating the website to a bunch of different languages. They support a lot of different languages, but they obviously need people to help them translate and contribute, especially when new pages come online and maybe new terms and things like that. And yeah, I mean, this is pretty detailed on GitHub. You can go check this out and see what they're focusing on in Q3. But as I said, you can get involved here. This could become getting involved in the Ethereum.org website and helping to shape it and helping to educate people. This could be like your first stepping stone into the world of Ethereum. Like, imagine you start off with contributing to Ethereum.org, you start getting more involved with the Ethereum core contributors, you go into the Discord channels in the ETH research forums. Maybe you have aspirations to become a core developer or a core researcher, and then you use this to kind of build your resume and build your reputation within the community and get to that point where potentially you can join the researchers in becoming part of the Ethereum roadmap and contributing to the Ethereum roadmaps, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. Yeah, there is a kind of very broad roadmap here, which is great to see, and there's a lot happening on the Ethereum.org front. All right, so the Ethereum Foundation Reddit AMA happened yesterday, I believe, or today, wherever you are in the world, and you can go check out all the questions and answers now on Reddit, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But as I scroll down here, as I said, there are usually multiple researchers answering the same question. You can see this first question was answered by Vitalik, and then it was also answered by Justin Drake, and you can keep scrolling down. You've got one here answered by Domothy, who is actually a Daily Gwei, a community member, so always great to see him there. Mike Nutter, who I've talked about before as well. And yeah, I mean, all the people that I talk about on the Refuel pretty regularly from the research side of things are in here answering these questions, and not just giving throwaway little answers, they're giving very detailed answers. And here, this is fun. Justin Drake actually posed a self question here. So basically, he asked himself a question because he wanted to answer this. And this was got to do with what he said recently on the Bankless podcast that I think a lot of people took out of context. So he said something around not needing decentralization at the, I believe, operator level, because there are cryptographic primitives that we can integrate into Ethereum that can give us decentralization without at the cryptographic level, at the tech level, and you're not having to do decentralization at the operator level. Now, Justin Drake has expanded on this in this question and answer here because the way we achieve this is with something called one-shot signatures. Now, I actually spoke to him about this a little while ago, and it's not something that's probably close to being implemented in the Ethereum network. I would say it'd have to be at least a decade out from something that could be ready to be implemented on the Ethereum network. But essentially, the TLDR of what one-shot signatures are and why they'd be so powerful for Ethereum, as Justin Drake says here, one-shot signatures are magical cryptographic signatures where the private key can only sign a single message. One-shot signatures exist so far only in theory, as you can check out here, thanks to quantum physics. See what I mean by at least a decade away? The private key is a quantum superposition which cannot be copied, and which must be measured and therefore destroyed to produce a signature. Importantly, the signatures themselves are normal bits and bytes, and one-shot signatures do not require quantum communication between parties. And then Justin Drake expands on why this is special and why this actually has massive implications if it works in practice and not just in theory for the Ethereum network. So essentially, we can get rid of slashing. We can get rid of double vote and surround vote slashing conditions completely, which is a huge deal, right? And then we can have perfect finality. So instead of relying on economic finality, we can have perfect finality that is guaranteed by cryptography and the laws of physics. Next, 51% finality threshold. The threshold of finality can be reduced from 66% to 51%. Pretty good reduction, but obviously not, not anything significant. I guess it's not like it's bringing it down to 10% finality threshold, but still pretty big change there. Instant queue clearing, so there will be no need for the activation and execute queues. Weak subjectivity no longer applies, at least in the default case where finality is reached without the need for an activity leaking. Trustless liquid staking, restaking free proof of stake. It becomes possible to design proof of stake where restaking is neutered. I don't know the details on that in particular. I think that's something that would have to be more fleshed out. Routing free Lightning. One can design a version of Lightning Network without any of the routing and liquidity issues, which is interesting. And proof of location. One can design proof of geographical location, which uses network latencies to triangulate the position of an entity without the possibility for that entity to cheat by having multiple copies of the private key. This, as I said, is pretty bleeding edge cryptography primitives, as well as physics. And as Justin says here, it's only, I guess, like in theory right now. This has not been done practically, and you can actually read the paper here on one-shot signatures and its applications. You can check that out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But this was basically the wider context around why Justin Drake said what he did on the Restaking Bankless podcast. And I think whenever you see researchers say these things, you really need to assume that they are thinking a very long kind of like very long term ahead of what the current status is, because the whole point of research is to be ahead of the game, right? It's to be on the bleeding edge. It's to be at the point, or at least a few years out from the current paradigm of what we're in, and research what can be added to the Ethereum roadmap, for example, what can be probably removed from it, what is not needed, and the further in time or the more long term you think, the better it is, because the more prepared you can become. Now, maybe one-shot signatures don't go live on the Ethereum network for 10 to 15 years. Maybe they don't ever go live. But the thing is that the research is being done now. It's being looked into now. It can inform certain design decisions around Ethereum. It can make Ethereum more secure overall, just from different kind of research that bolts onto one-shot signatures. So it's all positive at the end of the day. But yeah, when Justin was explaining this to me, I was like, my mind was absolutely blown. I was like, dude, what the hell? I never even heard of this. And you guys are already thinking about how this could apply to Ethereum and how it could actually make the Ethereum network so much stronger, and could potentially make the Ethereum network so strong that it becomes pretty much impossible to take it down from a technical point of view. Obviously, from a social point of view, it's a different thing, but this is crazy, right, guys? This is actually insane here. But yeah, as I said, not something that's close to going live on the network anytime soon, but something that some researchers like Justin Drake are thinking about. But anyway, you can go check out the rest of the AMA for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, Jesse Polak is teasing that Base is going live soon. Now, you may wonder how I came to that conclusion, considering all he tweeted was a quote tweet of Base's a tweet from back in February with 5 check marks. Now, the reason why I am able to, I guess, draw this conclusion is because the 5 check marks were basically the 5 steps that the development team needed to complete on Base in order for Base to be ready for mainnet. And this has been detailed in the past, and I've gone over this on the refill before. So yeah, it seems that they've completed all 5 here, which means that we could possibly expect Base mainnet to go live very, very soon. And to put maybe a timeline on that, I would not be surprised to see this Base mainnet go live between the next maybe 1 to 2 months. I think 2 months is probably going to be too long. I would say it could happen within the next, let's say 6 weeks, right? Let's do a middle ground between 1 to 2 months. Let's say it goes live within the next 6 weeks. That is massive, guys. I don't think you understand how big of a deal that is, considering that Base was not announced that long ago. And this is a huge undertaking for Coinbase. And at the same time, it's going live before 4844. So they're going to onboard all these users, right? These users are going to get cheap fees. It's probably not going to be as cheap as users may like it to be. Maybe it's 10 cents for a swap or something like that. But then 4844 is going to go live. And I'm sure Base is going to take advantage of that straight away, and fees are going to drop to sub-cent. And I'm very excited to see what they've decided on when it comes to if they're going to do free USDC transfers or subsidized USDC transfers on Base, because that will very, very quickly get a lot of liquidity onto the Base network. And there'll be a lot of people essentially not only providing liquidity, but using Base as a payments rail. And on top of that, I know that Coinbase has said in the past that they're not going to be doing a Base token, and that there's just not going to be a token altogether. But people are still going to speculate that there will be a token. And I know I've said before that any project that doesn't have a token will have a token. There are exceptions to that, and some exceptions are like what Base is, because Base is built by Coinbase, right? Coinbase already has it doesn't have a token, but it has a stock, like the coin stock, right? So, and on top of that, they also have a lot of regulatory scrutiny right now. So I don't think they're going to be issuing their own token or anything like that. But in saying that, it could get to a point where if Coinbase wants to hand Base over to the community and wants to have community governance, then there could be a token. So at the end of the day, as much as they say that there won't be a token, and as much as the I guess incentives and motivations aren't there for there to be a token, you can never rule it out. So there is going to be airdrop farmers, right? There is going to be people on there airdrop farming. And I talked yesterday about how I don't think that's a negative, so to speak. I do think it has positive externalities. But at the same time, just because Coinbase said that Base isn't going to have a token doesn't mean that it won't have a token in the future, and that's what the airdrop farmers will be betting on. Even if the chance is 0.1%, people are still going to bet on that. So that's going to drive a lot of activity as well. But I think the main driver of activity will be Coinbase basically advertising Base to their users and saying, hey, especially over assets that Coinbase doesn't list. They can say to users, hey, we don't list this asset, but you can go trade it on Base. And they'll show them how to do that. They'll obviously integrate it directly into Coinbase Wallet, which is a very good wallet, by the way. People are actually surprised by how good of a wallet Coinbase Wallet is, but I've suggested it to a few friends that were using MetaMask Mobile Wallet, and I said to them, they were complaining about it. They're like, "Oh my god, MetaMask Mobile Wallet is shocking. Like the user experience just isn't there. It just feels like the extension." And I said to them, well, why don't you go and try Coinbase Wallet? And they're like, what do you mean Coinbase Wallet? Isn't that like even worse? I'm like, what do you like? No. And like, why do you assume it's worse? And they say, oh, because it's Coinbase. They don't really, they haven't been really successful with their crypto native products before because their NFT marketplace didn't really take off. I'm like, yeah, okay, but just because the NFT marketplace didn't take off doesn't mean that their wallet isn't good. And then they used the wallet and they're like, holy shit, like I didn't even realize it was this good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well now you do, now you can use it. And I've seen some similar comments around Base. People say, well, Coinbase's NFT marketplace failed, so what's to stop Base from failing as well? It's like, well, okay, there's multiple reasons here. One, they learned from the NFT marketplace experience. That's a learning for them, and they've taken that on board. Two, the head of Base, Jesse Polak, is a crypto native. He definitely understands what it takes to make something like this succeed. Three, an L2 is very different to an NFT marketplace. There are already so many NFT marketplaces out there, and they had already built up a lot of liquidity around them, and they had already built up a lot of a customer base around them. The L2 kind of ecosystem is still ripe because there really isn't that much activity there compared to the NFT marketplaces, especially during the bull market. Yes, we do have, a couple of big generalized L2s right now, such as Arbitrum and Optimism and a few others, but there is still so much growth to have there. So Base is going live at the perfect time, I believe, just before the start of the next bull market. I say just before, but we're probably like 6 to 12 months away from a proper bull market if I had to kind of speculate on that. But that's why Base is joining at the right time. Launching at the right time. They'll launch, they'll get the apps on board, they'll get their early users on board, they'll get all the liquidity there. 4844 will go live, they'll take advantage of that. And then all these new users that come in, when the bull market happens probably next year, they're going to direct those users to Base. So I think that the timing is right. The design of it is right. They're using the OP stack, so they've already got a leg up because the OP stack is already in the wild, being used by Optimism itself. It works. Everyone knows it works. They have a lot of incentives that they can use to get people on there. They have the fact that they don't have a token, and they said that there's not going to be a token, but no one really believes them. So yeah, when you take all that together, it's very different to how they launched their NFT marketplace. And really, they didn't even put much effort into their NFT marketplace, to be honest. And they launched it at the kind of tail end of the NFT mania, I believe, from memory. So yeah, it definitely is all about timing when it comes to these things, and I think the timing is just right for this. So yeah, very excited to see Base go live relatively soon. I would estimate within the next 6 weeks. That's my estimation. We'll revisit, but yeah, it feels like it's coming much sooner rather than later. All right, keeping on the L2 topic, Arbitrum has announced phase 1 of their Arbitrum Ambassador program, and it is now live. They said here, starting today, university-based blockchain clubs and students can apply to represent Arbitrum in their local communities, contribute, build their professional network, and more. So you can learn more about this by going to this blog post here, which has been blocked by my ad blocker, which is funny. But yeah, you can go to this blog post here on Medium and check it all out and check out all the details here. But the TLDR is basically there's 2 phases of the Ambassador program. Phase 1, which is open to university-based clubs and students, and Phase 2, which is open to individuals, community and technical, which will be going live in Q3 of this year. And basically, it's a way for different groups of people, different groups from different walks of life to get involved with the Arbitrum ecosystem, such as proposing initiatives for funding by the foundation, represent Arbitrum as an official ambassador on your university campus and beyond, make valuable contributions to the broader Arbitrum ecosystem, and organize and host an Arbitrum satellite event in your region. So it's basically a way to build that Arbitrum army, right? Build that missionary community around Arbitrum and get people developing on Arbitrum, using it, all that good stuff there. But yeah, this is great. I think that we're going to be seeing more of these ambassador programs, and I like the programs that are focused on non-speculative stuff, because you could say that there are speculative ambassador programs where essentially you get paid for talking about something, or you get points for talking about something and shilling it or whatever. And it doesn't look very organic when it's done like that, because it's definitely mercenaries just in it for the money. But when you look at it as a kind of thing where it's like, okay, we want ambassadors on board that can educate people, that can get developers on board, that can get extra users on board, that leads itself to more missionary than mercenary, which you guys know that I'm all about. Like, missionaries are definitely what you want to have in your ecosystem and community. So you can go check out the details of this Arbitrum Ambassador program. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, so I talked about StarkNet a little bit yesterday, I believe, and about how they put their new Quantum Leap upgrade live. And for those of you who don't know, you can actually track a lot of StarkNet's statistics and metrics on Voyager.online, which is a StarkNet block explorer. Mempoolsurfer.eth here, the co-CTO at Nethermind, posted a screenshot out today saying, a very satisfying set of stats on Voyager.online. The network now has much more bandwidth than demand. The max TPS recorded of 54.3 was the system clearing out the backlog. Now it feels like a sleeping giant. So yeah, there's a lot more capacity on StarkNet than there was before, a lot more ability to do a lot more TPS, and it is ripe for being filled, essentially. So there's all this space, people can build their apps on there and kind of fill it up. And the thing is that it's going to get filled up every time as long as there's the demand for it, and then they're going to keep increasing it over time. And I think that's the proper way to do it. I think that a fault a lot of the monolithic chains made is that they kind of said, okay, we do thousands of TPS, or we do tens of thousands of TPS. Yeah, okay, cool. You do that. Obviously, ignoring the fact that they sacrifice decentralization to do that. But yeah, let's just stay on that topic for a sec. It's like, yeah, okay, you do that, but like, who cares? Do you have the demand for that? No. Like, the real TPS of your network, the actual processed transactions per second, is much, much lower than what you can handle. So why do you have all that capacity when there's no need to have that? And it's such an inefficient design because you're still paying for that capacity. So let's take Solana, for example, as the quintessential example of a monolithic chain. They have all these validators that are expensive to run, and those validators are earning SOL tokens, right, for staking. Now, what do you think is happening to those SOL tokens? They're being sold to cover the costs. The cost wouldn't need to be that high if the network actually didn't just offer all this extra space for years now that people aren't even taking advantage of. And then when people do take advantage of, the network falls over. So I'm not trying to pick on Solana here. I'm just using it as an example because it's an obvious one to me, and they're the one who advertises that they do like 50,000 TPS, and their real TPS is much lower than advertised. I mean, if you exclude the voting TPS, which you should, because no other blockchain actually includes that, the validator voting, I think the last time I checked, the actual TPS was like 800. But then you look at the actual transactions taking place, and they're not high economic value transactions. They're mostly spam. So even if you don't consider that, even if you just look at, let's just round it up to 1,000 TPS, you still have 50. There's still 50 times more capacity than what you actually have. And so you're paying for that 50 times more capacity for no reason. So it's better to focus on incrementally increasing the TPS that you have and the bandwidth that you have as demand keeps hitting that ceiling, right? Because at the end of the day, you have to pay for it in some way. And if the fees are low, who's paying for it? It's the token holders, because the validators that are subsidizing essentially the fees by running beefy hardware have to be paid, and they have to cover their own costs. And to do that, they sell the token that they're being paid in. And that is the same concept of like mining, for example, where the Bitcoin miners have to pay their electricity bill because they are using electricity to mine in order to generate new BTC and to win blocks. They have to sell it to pay for it there. Whereas, with Ethereum, it's a bit different, where staking isn't intensive in hardware wise or otherwise, because you can run validators on like a Raspberry Pi, for example, right? So the costs are very, very low compared to something like Solana, where you have to have like a gigabit connection, and you have to have all this bandwidth and all this hardware in order to run the chain, in order to keep the chain online as well and not falling over. It's a very expensive task. So I like the approach that StarkNet has taken here. So kudos to them on that. And it comes back to what I've been saying for a long time now. We have the capacity on these L2s and we have probably too much capacity at this point. What we need is the demand. We need to build better apps. We need to build apps that are taking advantage of this capacity. Otherwise, we're just going to have a lot of empty chains. And I think that's more true for layer ones than layer twos. But layer twos aren't immune to it just because they're a layer two. You still need to build an ecosystem. You still need to build demand. You still need to get people using it. And that's what I think a lot of the layer twos are definitely focusing on right now. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to leave that one at that. You can check out this for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. All right, XMTP has a massive announcement today. So for those of you who don't know what XMTP is, it is a secure messaging network for Web3, aka they're trying to build a decentralized encrypted messaging platform that anyone can use. Now, I should disclose here that I'm an investor in them, have been an investor for quite a while now, but today they announced that they have integrated with Coinbase Wallet. So Coinbase Wallet has added XMTP, and now you can basically go on there and chat to all of your contacts on Coinbase Wallet. You can see as I play this video what this looks like. So basically, it's directly integrated into the wallet itself. You own your chats. You can see all the encrypted chats here with inboxes. It has direct integration with things like crypto. Like, look at that. You send crypto. It says send 10 USDC, and it tells you it's on Polygon here. Imagine that being integrated with Base as well, right? That's going to be awesome. And it's all just native crypto. You just scan the chat. It's all in there. There's no kind of like third-party stuff here. It's all being done out of the Coinbase wallet itself, which is huge. And I think it's huge for Coinbase as well because it means that their users are basically becoming more sticky because the Coinbase wallet is not only just a wallet now, it is a full-blown chat app platform too. So imagine, you were kind of talking to someone on Twitter and said to them, hey, like, do you have Coinbase Wallet? I'll send you some money for such and such, or I'll send you this for such and such. And you're able to just do that natively within the wallet through an encrypted messaging platform instead of doing it on Twitter and I guess like trying to do it by saying, oh, okay, what's your Ethereum address? Okay, what network are you on? Blah, blah, blah. With Coinbase Wallet, it has the potential to abstract all of that away. And imagine, I don't know if they're doing this yet, but imagine that Coinbase Wallet integrates with one of these bridging protocols, and you say to your friend kind of messages you on there and says, hey, can you send me 10 USDC on Arbitrum, and you only have 10 USDC on, I guess, like, let's just say the Polygon POS chain. You can basically click a link that says, okay, send this 10 USDC through, through Coinbase Wallet, through the XMTP integration here, and send it to my friend who's on this chain. And then it does that all abstracted away in the background. That is the kind of start of mass adoption right there. As I mentioned yesterday as well, I believe that kind of like one click, do multiple things behind the scenes experience is exactly what's going to bring on a lot of people into this ecosystem. And I think XMTP going live now is also good timing because, as I mentioned before when talking about Base, I think Coinbase Wallet is going to benefit a lot from Base's launch as well. So it's just all happening, really. And it's really great to see it all happening at once. It's really great to see all of these things being integrated at the same time. And I think this is the start, very start, but the start of some kind of, I guess, mass adoption happening, or at least the early signs of it here. So you can check out this announcement for yourself. I'll link the Twitter thread in the YouTube description below. All right, Ajna Finance has teased that they're launching today. So they're launching at 9 a.m. Eastern time today. They're probably already live by the time you're watching this refuel, but I'm recording this refuel a little bit earlier today because I'm actually back on the weekly roll-up again with Ryan this week. So I'm going to be recording that a bit later. But Ajna, for those of you who don't know, is a new oracleless, permissionless lending protocol. So they've basically taken the concept of no governance, no oracles, nothing like that, and applied it to a lending protocol in order for people to have, I guess, like this lending protocol that looks more like a Uniswap than an Aave, for example, because Aave has a governance process, has oracles, everything like that. And I should disclose here that I am an investor in Ajna, and I invested in them because, as I've said on the refuel plenty of times before, there is this emerging kind of like new set of DeFi protocols that are oracleless, that are focusing on real-world assets, that are trying to do different things to what we've seen in the past. And I'm not calling it DeFi 3.0. I've said before, I don't think we should coin that term, but they are newer protocols and they're innovating here. There's another one called Volantis, which is building a new type of AMM that I've also invested in. So that's why I'm excited about these. I think DeFi has been in dire need for at least a couple of years now of some fresh innovation, and I'm finally seeing it, especially around real world assets. And MakerDAO, funny enough, is actually at the forefront of that, even though they're an older protocol. And I know they've come under scrutiny for a bunch of different things in the past, but I think they're on the right track when it comes to real world assets. So yeah, I mean, by the time you've watched this, maybe Ajna's live, so you should definitely go check it out. But just wanted to put that on your radar in case you missed that one there. All right, so just the last thing here, Sismo has announced today that they've officially shifted their entire focus on making zero-knowledge proofs available to all builders. ZK badges are powerful, yet it is Sismo Connect that will unlock a whole new design space for builders. Today we are sharing our learnings. And I did mention this, I think, a couple weeks ago about how Sismo has basically gone from just to a more generalized service, such as zero-knowledge proofs as a service. And they're detailing this in more depth in this blog post here, which you can check out for yourself. So I just figured this was a follow-up to what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, and how you can check this out and read it and learn all about that there. But I think that's time for today, so that's going to be it. Thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.